This is Maureen Elward. You're listening to BackCAST Cape Ann. The stories you hear as part of BackCAST Cape Ann's series on the LBGTQ community highlights their contribution, care, and activism. It's a look back at experiences, significant moments, and persistent memories. I'm here with Kate Noonan and Pat Towler of Common Crow, co-owners of the business for 20 years, located in Gloucester, Massachusetts. Thanks for joining me on the LBGTQ podcast.
You're welcome.
Thanks for having us.
So tell me about Common Crow. You've been working on this for 20 years. You opened the store in the year 2000. You took over from the glass sailboat, Pat.
That's correct.
Can you start telling me about how that transition happened?
I worked for the glass sailboat for the last 7 years that it was in operation. That 7 years was a sort of add-on, and it was intended that I came in to close the business, but we kept going. And at the end of that period, I was ready to move on to do something else, but Mac Bell, the boss, suggested that I couldn't escape that easily, and that he would like to see if I could buy the business or buy a portion of the business to carry it on. And so Kate and I got together. We were newly in our relationship, put some business together, and started to plan a new store that we called Common Crow Natural Health. For the 7 years that I worked for the glass sailboat, I had the really rare and wonderful experience of working in a downtown business in a community that I had recently come to and that sold things that I cared a lot about, but I didn't have any food business experience. I had a lot of retail experience, and I decided to really just dig in like I do and learn everything that there was to know about that. So at the end of the 7 years, I learned a lot about the three businesses that were part of the glass sailboat: the clothing business, and the food business, and the grocery business. And it was a precious time. We had a wonderful time there. And we had a coffee house that we did for 3 years, which was really exciting because that's how I got to meet and know folks in our community, Brian King and Deb Hardy, other musicians in the community that I had the opportunity to host at our space.
Kate, where did you come into the picture?
I met Pat at the glass sailboat. I was working a few doors down as a mental health counselor, and if a client didn't show up, I'd walk up to the glass sailboat and grab a cookie and a tea or hang out. And actually, even before that, I think I did a short stint of cashiering and cashing out. Yeah, I came to Gloucester sort of as my bridge. I had a very successful career as a naturalist historian, park manager, sort of bird watcher, taking people out, guiding, and working for Mass Audubon in the end. I felt like I had done what I wanted to do in that field and decided to take a break, and I had an opportunity to do that. So I did, and came to Gloucester, like a lot of people do. So that was in the early 90s. And so I was sort of bumping around for a few months, not really taking an official job and sorting out what I wanted to do. So I worked at the food co-op and met a lot of the folks that we still serve today or work with even. We have employees in the store who worked at the Cape Ann Food Co-op who worked at the glass sailboat. No, it's hard to leave. We're all the Gilbert grapes of Cape Ann. So
Pretty funny.
So yeah, I first met Pat maybe even before I went to grad school, while I was in the middle of it and studying to do the mental health counseling. During that period was when I was coming out. And it was a lot of fun. It was really fun to come out at that age.
Really? So how old were you, and what was fun about it?
Well, because I was having a fresh start. I was in a new community. I was an adult. I didn't care what anybody thought about me. I was having really fun experiences in so many ways, with individual people, with groups of women, I was being asked out by men, asked out by women. I was just having some fun. And, how old was I? I don't know. I was not quite 40, I guess, maybe even less than that. A little more than 30. So I went to Lesley and got my master's in counseling psych and met a lot of really great women there, had a lot of fun, had my first real full-on girl crush there. And, throughout my youth, I was just clueless about gay as an option or anything like that. I was sort of fluid in my behavior. I enjoyed playing sports. I was very active. I did not put up with any crap from guys. People called me a feminist, and I kind of felt like it was a dirty word because I just felt like a person. I just really felt empowered and like it was okay to be who I am. And who that wasn't all that much about my sexuality as it was about just doing and thinking and being in the world. So I had a little voice in the head moment when I was in high school. And it was, high school, you're always in conflict with your parents, and my mother drove me crazy. And the little voice said, "You won't know love until you know the love of a woman." And I heard that to mean, you better, appreciate what your mother has to offer. That's how I interpreted it at the time. And, when I went to college, girls were crushing out on me all the time, and I didn't even have a clue. After dating boys, men, being married for 7 years to a man, and that sort of crashing and burning, I had that time and that space to explore in a time in my life where I felt completely comfortable doing whatever I felt like doing because I could. Mm-hmm. And that's, I guess, why it was easy and fun. It's always a challenge to come out to your family, but, that was pretty hilarious, too. I got my sister saying, "Which one is it?" And
what do you mean, which one is it? Which one do you choose?
Yeah, which one of the girls is it that you're hanging out with?
It wasn't me at the time.
It wasn't you at the time.
My brother saying, "Oh, you're going to have to talk to your nieces about that. I can't do that for you." And, sisters-in-law saying, "Oh, hooray." And then my mother saying, "You can't come to the holidays." And, and then, 2 months later saying, "What are you bringing to your father's 80th birthday party?" It was just how the family rolled. And for me, there were highs and lows in there, but it was never like, I don't think I ever felt like this is it, or I want to kill myself, or anything like that.
Yeah,
it was just kind of part of the excitement and roller coaster of the story for me, because I think I felt like that with my family about any big thing that I was announcing to them. The last words my dad said to me were, "Please tell Pat I said, hello."
Your coming out like? Did you have a moment
Kate
like
did
that?
it.
Kate did it for you?
Yeah. In thinking about this conversation beforehand, I realized that it's really true that I'm not a joiner. Anyone who knows me knows that. But I also just have, when I've been true for myself, been very focused on the person and the feeling and the connection more than anything else, which is not to say that I was freely moving between female and male affection. I wasn't. It was a big deal for me to realize that the person that I was looking at coming into the glass sailboat for her tea and looking at me over that cup that she would bring, and a lot of, steps of the process, spiritual and otherwise, that brought me to the place where I said, "Oh, this is a person that I love." In fact, my coworker said to me, "You're in love." And I said, "I guess I am." And she said, "I know who it is."
They always know,
And I said,
your friends always know.
Right. And I said, "Tell me." Because I actually was, like Kate, in the middle of a little dance with a couple of different people. And my coworker was correct. It was Kate. It was fun to discover that this happiness could be part of my life. And I'd had a long road before that, also a marriage to a man before I came to this point in my life. And we have found a place where we are connected to each other, and it's not about gender specific anything. It's that this is my partnership. Gay and lesbian or other gender community members are embedded in the common culture more than they were 21 years ago, 30 years ago, 100 years ago. And so we are privileged in this time to have this comfort, relative safety, relative acceptance. There's a lot to say about that. It hasn't been all roses for us. And it's true, though, that things are different. And, you know, when I knew that we were going to talk a little bit about the community here, one of the things that I've noticed has changed, it seems, dramatically, is that because of this more universal acceptance, some of the inner community activities have dissipated. Like around the time that we got together 20 or so years ago, the activity of having like a women's coffee house or a gay and lesbian or LGBTQ community event kind of screeched to a stop. It stopped happening.
Do you think it wasn't necessary anymore because there was that greater integration, or why do you think it stopped?
I don't think it's a bad thing that the community at large opened up to us and we were able to immerse ourselves in normal everyday life.
Did you feel like you were separated from the regular community?
Well, when you think about it, safety and acceptance, we all need it. And we all need a tribe where the basis of your being is not in question. And at the time, that was, you know, there was sort of a separation between our gay and lesbian community or other gender culture and the mainstream was dramatic enough that it wasn't really, no, it wasn't safe and it wasn't accepting. So finding your way through your own experience was partly to find your tribe, your community, and be with them and just do normal stuff. Go over to someone's house for dinner or share music together. And specifically music or, you know, experiences that expressed our own context. Kate and I attended some women's festivals, and that was an incredible adventure, you know, to see the women-only culture expressed in that community, and with all orientations, but just women.
I personally never felt any kind of pushback for being a lesbian, gay person, different other person on Cape Ann. I always felt like, you know, I'm here, I'm doing what I'm doing, I'm a, you know, contributing member of society, I am welcome, accepted, I accept you. And I think for me anyway, coming at the world in that way makes it easier to be accepted too. And not everyone has that privilege, I know. Not everyone, you know, has that sense of self. But, you know, as a business owner in Cape Ann, as a therapist in Cape Ann, you know, just a regular old person in the store, it's not even like a topic very often. Amongst the staff, it is more so. I remember the first time we had an employee call us a power lesbian couple, and I was like, "Oh, really?"
Well, I'm surprised to hear that. Yeah.
So, you know, as perceived by others, I think it's really different than the life that we live.
I wanted to tell a little story about same-sex marriage and the passage of the law. Kate and I were already pretty committed to each other, and the very tumultuous period when the state of Massachusetts was in the process of you know, accepting or allowing or permitting same-sex marriage. Finally, that law was passed, and, you know, Kate likes to be an early adopter. So we trotted over there and filled in the paperwork
You trotted over where?
To the City Hall.
City Hall,
from
Gloucester City
our
Hall?
Gloucester
store
City
in
Hall,
Pleasant
from the
Street.
That's
store.
right.
And the ladies in the clerk's office were shaking and nervous and very anxious. And we got our paperwork, and they were just sort of very respectful, but sort of counting and measuring every word and making sure that they were doing everything correctly. And we filled out our paperwork. And
Then we got our packet of soaps.
we got our,
And
laundry detergent
tester-sized laundry
and
detergents.
testers in a cute little silver bag, which I think I might still have in a drawer
It
somewhere.
was like a welcome wagon bag. That's what you get when you go apply for your license in Gloucester.
So we left there, and then we said, all right, we did it. We have this process underway, and then you have to be done with your actual wedding by a certain number of days, right?
Yeah, I think we had like 30 days.
So initially we thought, we'll just have a little something. Of course, all of the details of telling family and friends about this, every single person said, oh, no, you don't. There will
Yeah.
be no
Not.
little something. So in the end, we had our wedding at our home, which was right off of Washington Street and in public view because my old garden was directly in view of the street. And we had 70 people there. It was a really wonderful day. We had a beautiful ceremony and lovely meal, and it was just awesome and wonderful. There's another piece to the story I wanted to share, which is about some of the challenges that we've experienced. I'll tell a story about being in the old store in downtown just after we had gone to get our license. We serve a lot of different people in the store, and diversity and welcoming is part of what we're about. Folks from all walks of life that would come in and get their vitamins or their, at the time, incense or whatever they were buying.
And herbs.
And
Speaking
herbs.
all different languages.
All over the place. So, one day, one of our real regulars came storming into the store. And just, she's probably, at the time in her 60s maybe. Good customer, came in every day, pretty much after she went to the Y, every day. And was, kind of sweet to us and friendly. And she was mad. And she came in and she just let me know, not because she knew anything about me, but that she knew I was a safe space and the store was a comfortable place to be, and she was used to speaking her mind at our store, that she couldn't believe that gay marriage was allowed now, and that she was going to have to move out of state. And could I believe that this was happening?
She didn't know.
Nope. And I was just hearing her and doing all of the things that it takes to just let someone have their space. I mean, I internally was kind of chuckling because really I got it for the first time myself, that she didn't know anything about me. But I let her speak her mind, and she was truly horrified that she was going to talk to her husband about selling their house and moving out of state because she couldn't tolerate the thought that this was happening. And I heard her, and I said, oh, it's going to be okay. Everybody's going to be fine. I hope you don't move. And, if you roll forward about 1.5 years or 2 years later, when she came into the store another time, and she said, just casually, hey, I saw you in your yard doing your gardening, and you and Kate have made a really nice place. I felt like the period was on the end of the sentence, without convincing, without controlling, without teaching, but just accepting. It felt really important. And years and years have gone by, and this person is still a customer, is still a friend of the business, is still around. It's in some ways, space makes a lot of change happen. We own a business where we employ over 50 people, and gender diversity is part of our community. And what that is like to hold open community in a workspace, to allow people all their diversity, is its own way of teaching and observing that. In college, I was involved in feminist theory, and the idea of marginalization and the context that there is, a center, an accepted set of norms in any thought process or community, and then there's the marginalized aspect of that. So it's part of the anatomy of culture that there are marginal and center places to be in. Being marginalized or not being part of core culture can mean a lot of different things. And to be able to generalize that and say, look, this is part of this ecosystem, this shape of what this is, and then recognize what our responsibilities are to the marginalized, whoever they are, is compassion, welcoming, accountability, responsibility to the whole, and responsibility to take special care of the marginalized or the edge of what culture has as its shape. For us, it's, we live inside of it so deeply that I kind of think that we've almost forgotten that that is a thing to talk about, but it is, actually. We are who we are, and the privilege of owning a company is that, and also perhaps some of the drawback is that, the people that we are affect how we shape our business. And so, in terms of who we have working for us, I suppose that if we are known or seen to be a power couple, or that this is a place where people of a diverse gender identification can work, then yes, we'll get applicants like that who openly and comfortably speak who they are. Anything that brings you closer to what your truth is will grow your power. The more intentional you are, the more powerful you are.
Kate?
I do feel more and more comfortable with my power as I get a little bit older and get to know myself a little bit better. I'm just constantly unraveling and reweaving.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast, and we'll see you at Common Crow.
Thank you.
BackCAST Cape Ann is a production of 1623 Studios. This show was produced by me, Maureen Aylward, with technical assistance from Becky Tober. Find BackCAST Cape Ann on 1623 Studios Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find all our podcast episodes on 1623studios.org.